and the hard work, you're not alone. In this video, we're going to dive deep into the secret ingredient, often missed and misunderstood in the pursuit of success. This live will help you get clear about what's holding you back and show you how to get crystal clear on what you really want. So it's time to go from struggling to unstoppable together. And before we dive in, as you know, this is a part of, or most of you know, this is a part of a 30-day live series. I'm going live every single day for 30 days. This is day one. Lucky you. And to really help us out here and understanding if these lives are going to be useful to you, I'm always looking to optimize this channel so that it's of great value and use to you, the viewer. If you could let me know whether or not you're watching this live or on a replay, it would be very, very helpful for me. So right now, if you could just type in live if you're here while I'm live, which is happening right now. Or if you watch this after the stream is over, if you're watching this and I've already gone live and you're watching the replay, if you just type replay in the comments, this would help out a lot. Like I said, it just gives us more information about what you find useful and how to deliver this information to you in the best way. Okay, enough of that. Let's dive in to what is really getting in the way of people succeeding. What gets in the way of your success? Now, a lot of people will say fear, or they will their response to that is in some sense related to fear. I want to rethink fear because it's not fear that really gets in your way of succeeding. Everybody has fear. Everybody, when they go to do something that is challenging, is going to experience fear. You wouldn't be human if you didn't. So fear is not really the problem. What can be a problem is what fear brings to your attention and how focused are you on that thing. So a lot of people come to me for coaching, and when I'm teaching, they'll say, well, how do I get rid of fear? And I'd say, if I could do that, if I could rid you of fear, I wouldn't, because it's really important that we have fear. And what I say is fear is like an alarm clock. It's really good for alerting you to things that you need to pay attention to so that you don't get into trouble, you don't hurt yourself or run into a bad situation. Fear is there to warn you, to say, look out. It gives you clarity about something to watch out for. And that's a really, really good thing. So it's like an alarm clock in that sense. It wakes you up. However, if you never shut the alarm clock off and you went throughout your entire day carrying your alarm clock around while it's going off, annoying everybody, and somebody said, hey, why don't you shut that thing off? You're awake already. And then your response to that was, well, just in case I fall asleep, just in case I'm not really awake. Sounds crazy, right? But that's what a lot of us are doing when it comes to wanting to succeed at something. We're taking the alarm system, fear, and we're hyper focusing it on the things, all the possibilities that could go wrong. And so here's what happens. Either you take no action because of that, or you end up making what you're focusing on become a reality. It's like when you're telling yourself over and over, you have a performance coming up and you're telling yourself over and over, don't screw up, don't screw up, don't screw up. Well, in order for your unconscious to know what not to screw up, it has to make a representation of you screwing up so that then your conscious mind can negate it. By this time, it's already too late. You have future paced. You have created a representation of exactly what you don't want to do. Your unconscious doesn't know what you consciously want to do or not. It just knows what clarity you have about whatever's in your mind. It follows the clarity. It moves away from confusion and chaos. So if you're using fear as a way to get very, very clear about what you don't want, chances are you're going to create that, even though you don't want it. If I can then, however, take fear and say, well, I want to be aware of what the consequences are of what I'm doing and what the stakes are, but I want to keep that in the periphery, not in the forefront, but in the periphery. Studies have shown that that actually works really well to accomplish and to succeed at what you want to accomplish and what you want to succeed at. a healthy amount of fear actually helps you succeed. It brings clarity to what the stakes are. And when you know what the stakes are, you're that much more likely to persevere. If this is in the periphery, not in the focus. If you focus on what you fear, you're more likely to create more of that. And that brings me to that secret ingredient that I was talking about, but that is also really misunderstood. And that is clarity. Clarity is the single most important thing when you want to achieve anything or succeed at anything because it's the first step. If you can't pass this first step or if you don't have this first step down, you really can't go anywhere else. Now, lots of people will tell me, "Well, I'm very clear about my goals. I just can't achieve them." And I would say that you're probably lacking clarity about those goals because there's so much more that goes on when it comes to setting goals and achieving goals. And in fact, I have said this often that goals are the least important part of setting goals, the goals themselves. Because if you don't know what overall you're trying to fulfill in achieving that goal, chances are you're setting goals without really understanding how they connect to who you are and what you're trying to fill. Oftentimes, we set goals based on what others think are important. And if you're basing those goals off of what others think are important or maybe some level of respect you think you will get or some sort of status, a lot of times that's not enough for you to achieve that goal because you're negating or you're not paying attention to what is inside of you that is looking to be fulfilled. So clarity about that, clarity about what is it really inside of you that you're wanting to fulfill. A goal is just a box to check. And yes, it is important to be clear about what a goal is and the details of it. Goals are a lot of times people misunderstand what a goal is. They think of a goal as like, I want to be happy, and that's my goal. It's not really a goal. A goal, think of it in the literal term, when a basketball goal, the ball goes into the basket, or in soccer, or if you're in Europe football, when the ball goes into the net, there is clearly, uh, without a doubt, it either goes into the net or the basket, or it has not. So your goals need to be specific in that regard. But if you don't know deeper what it is you're trying to fulfill, like happiness, like joy, what are your deeper values, then that lack of clarity oftentimes will not connect with what it is you're wanting to accomplish, what that goal is. Now, before we even get to the goal, the other thing to understand is that clarity is a process. Clarity takes taking action. And a lot of people think, well, I can figure this all out in my head, or I can figure it out all out on paper. And there's certainly nothing wrong with using those instruments, right? You want to use your brain for clarity. You want to think these things through. Of course, you can overthink and overanalyze, and that's not helpful. And there's lots of exercises you can do on paper, like a values elicitation, which, by the way, if you're wondering what that is or how to elicit your values, I've left a resource for you in the description of this video. And if you're watching from a different platform besides YouTube, everything pretty much is geared toward my YouTube channel. So when I say there's resources in the description, I don't know that that's always true for the other platforms that this is going out to. So if you want to find anything, it's always based off my YouTube channel. So you can find those resources in the YouTube live. Back to what I was saying. A lot of people think that they want the clarity before they take any action. They want to figure it out all on paper, all in their head. And I know the reason for that. And that goes back to the first thing that I was talking about, which is fear. We are afraid. We're afraid that we will fail. We're afraid that time, resources, money, energy invested all goes for naught. And there's something deeper that a lot of us are afraid of. We're afraid that every time we fail, that says something about who we are and makes us less valuable as a person. Now, I can assure you that most of all of these things, if not all of them, are all related to a lack of clarity about what you're after. Now, I will cover some of these things on other lives, so I don't want to go too deep into any one of these. I want to stick to what we're doing here right now. and build on this as you'll see this builds over the 30 days. Just know though that there is no such thing as self-worth, and really the reason that I can say that with and be absolute about that. I don't normally like making absolute statements, but that one I can be absolute about is because there's no way to measure it. There is no way to measure your worth. Yes, I understand that self-worth is a feeling. A low self-worth or high self-worth is a feeling and it feels very real, but it isn't. So I will cover this in a future live. What I'm getting at here is that most of these things that you're afraid of has to do with lack of clarity. Most of the things that are holding you back and achieving what you want has to do with lack of clarity. And the number one thing that you can do to get clear is to take action. There's nothing that gives you greater feedback than taking action on something. And I know that's the one thing that most people are afraid to do. If you can clear that self-worth part out and you can recognize that there is no such thing, that no matter how many times you fail, it does not say anything about your worth or your value. That's huge for getting that out of your way. That's a lack of clarity. Get that out of your way. Be clear that those failure does not mean anything about your worth or your value, and that it's going to take failing from time to time to become clear about what not to do. That's a huge part of success is understanding what not to do and what doesn't work. So you have to go beyond failure. And the other part about failure is it's not really failure. It's feedback. That's something we say in NLP. It's a presupposition. There is no such thing as failure, only feedback. And so you've got to open the scope of your understanding of failure, that failure is not something that just exists on its own, that it's a part of success. It's going to be a part of your overall fulfillment in life. It's just something that happens. It's just part of it. And action, when you take action, you get so much better feedback, so much more feedback than if you're just trying to figure something out in your mind or figuring it out on paper. So you take actions, you try things out, and that will bring clarity, so much more clarity. We tend to live in our heads. We tend to live in this bubble in our mind about who we are and the life that we're living. A lot of us even have, movie trailers in our head with the music, and we're the star of the movie, right? And that's fun to a certain extent. We should be the star of our own lives. But a lot of times, we're not actually interacting with the world around us. We're not getting out there and taking action because we're protecting ourselves. We're insulating ourselves from the things that we don't want to find out or that we're afraid to find out. But if you found them out, if you took the action, you did the thing, and even if it came back with results that you didn't want, you'd quickly realize you're still alive, you're still fine, everything's going to be okay, and you just keep moving forward. It's not always easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is. Part of the reason that we struggle with this so much is because of what is called personalization. And personalization will always blur your clarity. And that is taking things personal, especially the things that aren't personal. And most failure, anytime you try to succeed and you fail at something, the reason why you failed has nothing to do with anyone trying to make you fail. That can be a factor, but most of the time it's not. The universe is not conspiring against you. I know it can feel that way at times though. But the idea here is to not take these things personal. And I know it's really hard sometimes. And I'm not saying I'm perfect and I never take things personal that aren't really personal. I do, but then I, smack myself around a little bit and realize like it's crazy. Nothing is personal in this situation. Nobody's trying to make you fail. And there's this idea that people are afraid of success and then they self-sabotage, and that is a observable, I guess from the outside, is an observable thing that we can look at and say that, yeah, that's what appears to be happening, but I assure you that's not what's happening. And once again, I'm going to cover that later in another live, that no, you are not conspiring against yourself. You are not purposefully trying to sabotage yourself. That can make somebody really paranoid if they actually believe that. And I think what happens a lot of times is we sort of entertain these little ideas about that. We never really give them too much validity, but we never really call them out and shine the light on them so that you see them for what they are, which gives you more clarity. So stop personalizing. Even if someone wants you to fail, even if someone else tries to sabotage you, that should not stop you. That's about them. I'm not saying there's probably 100 different ways that you could handle such a thing like that, but even though it feels personal, if the less personal you make that, the more you can move on, let that go, get away from that person, do whatever you gotta do, and focus on you. Focus on your success, focus on your happiness, focus on your fulfillment. So stop personalizing, and I assure you, things get much, much more clear. The other thing you can do is apply the scientific method to your endeavors. Now, you don't have to take this too far, you don't have to get too specific, but just in general, become a scientist when it comes to the things that you want to do. So, if you have something you want to achieve, you have a certain amount of success you want in your life, try different things out. You try them out and you test them. Think of it, form a hypothesis about it. I'm going to try this thing and I'm going to see how it goes. Here's how I think it will go, but I could be wrong about that. I give it a try. I see what happens. Maybe it gives me back favorable results. And I say, okay, let me do more of this. Let me experiment some more. And the more I experiment, the more I'm able to develop a theory about how this is going to go. So you're trying something new, a new business venture, you test it out. Does this work? I would form a hypothesis about it. And then again, detach any personalization to this. This is the idea about being a scientist. It's about experimenting, not taking anything personal. You're just testing to see what results you get. And the more you test, the more you experiment, the more you will be able to cultivate a theory about whatever your endeavor is, about your success that has a lot of validity to it. And through that theory can help you. And it's a theory about you, it's a theory about your life, it's a theory about your success. So it's very personalized, it's very customized. Now, we don't want to make this all cold, objective science. So, what I say about this is become a scientist when it comes to testing out your hypothesis or hypotheses. The little things in the back of your mind you want to try, writing that novel, surfing, um, approaching that stranger who you find very attractive and you're curious about. These are little things in the back of your head. Could I start a business? Could I go into sales? Could I make $1 million in a year? Those are little questions you have in the back of your mind. Test them out. Form a hypothesis and test things out. And once you've done enough testing, then I say become the artist when it comes to creating what you want. Once you do enough testing and once you have a lot more clarity, it will become a lot easier to create what it is you want in your life. So, a scientist when it comes to testing and experimenting, and then become the artist when it comes to creating. And a lot of times, that's an alternating thing: testing, creating, testing, creating. You test enough to get enough information, enough feedback, and again, the less personal you are about the feedback, the more clarity you're going to have about it, and the more testing you'll be comfortable doing. And you get to that point where now it's time to create and do that back and forth, test, create, test, create. And I assure you that will change not only the way you go about achieving your success, but it will change the way you go about living your life. And it's a lot funner to do it that way. Um, it's a lot fun. It's a lot funner to go about this, not worrying about if I'm going to fail and it's going to make me feel of low self-worth. Rather, I want to go about this discovering, exploring, experimenting, and then creating. And if you do that, I assure you the path to success will become not only easier, but a lot more enjoyable. So, to conclude, clarity is an ongoing process that requires that you engage with yourself and with the world around you. This doesn't happen in a vacuum. This doesn't happen all in your head. You have to engage. What you bring clarity to in your life tends to create more of what you're clear about. So if your fear has you focusing on all the things that could go wrong, the tendency will be that that's what you will create, or you'll be too afraid to do anything at all. So this is why it's so important to focus on what you want rather than what you don't want. Sometimes I do sessions with clients and it takes an entire session to find out what they want because every time I ask them, "What do you want?" they tell me what they don't want. And I'll say, "Okay, I understand. I understand what you don't want. It's good to know what you don't want." Like I said, in the periphery, it's good to have that clarity. It's good to know what the stakes are. What do you want instead? And most of the time from there, we have to build representations in that person's mind of what they want because they don't exist otherwise. And if they don't exist otherwise, I can assure you what you want won't happen if you don't have a sense of it, if you don't have a reference for it. Remember too that action and the feedback from your actions is your greatest tool to get clear about whatever it is that you want to get clear about. And if that's getting clear about your success, trust me, this does not happen without taking action. That's the most important one. All right, let me see. I have a little time for questions. Yes, this will stay on my YouTube channel. So this will stay as a recording. Looking forward to this. Okay, cool. Me too. Yes, Smashley, you did catch the live. Glad you're here. Okay, lots of people here live. That's awesome. All right. Okay, very cool. Wow, I'd love to see how many people showed up. All right, let's see. Hi, I want to offer promotion of your channel. Viewers, followers, views, chats, but the price is lower than. Oh, somebody's putting a advertisement here. Okay. All right, let's see. All right, no questions, just lots of nice comments. Much appreciated. Well, I have a question for you. Are you showing up tomorrow? Let's see. Rex says, I'm one of those who doesn't know what he wants. So, Rex, this is great. And you're probably thinking, why is that great? I don't know what I want. That's not great. It is great because now you know what to do. What you need to do is it's time to start discovering and exploring. Go find out what you want. Like this doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's it's a wonderful thing to think, okay, well, what you want is you want to find out what you want. And there's no reason why you can't have a lot of fun exploring that and finding out what it is that you want. So this is not a bad thing. I would not I mean if it feels like you're lost, I understand that doesn't feel good, but you don't have to feel that way about it. At least you know where you are right now. You're in a place where I don't know what I want. Okay, great. Go take some action. Go try things out. Go find out what you want. Trust me that you can spend the rest of your life doing that and enjoying it and having many adventures along the way. Why I go negative when I have clarity. Well, okay, so that goes back to what I was saying about the fear. What do you have clarity about? What are you focusing on? Again, it's good to know what scares you. It's good to know what you think of as, the worst case scenario, so you know what the stakes are. If clarity is making you feel negative, then you're focusing your attention on the wrong thing. What about focusing on your attention on doing the things that you enjoy doing that will eventually lead you to where you want to go? So here's the thing. Here's another important thing about success and about clarity. If you've decided, okay, this is what kind of success I want, this is what I want to achieve, and in the process of getting there, you're not enjoying it at all and you get no fulfillment out of that, there's a good chance that what you're after, what you think you want, you don't really want. Because people do this to themselves. They withhold all gratification. They force themselves to do something they really don't like doing, thinking that one day they'll achieve it. And it's if you're not enjoying it, you get no fulfillment along the way. Don't think that the day that you achieve this thing, that suddenly the fulfillment comes rushing in and everything's great and wonderful. It doesn't work that way. You need to make some adjustments. If you're getting no fulfillment out of what you're doing along the path to whatever success you're trying to achieve, make some adjustments. It's a good chance it's the wrong goal. It's not the right goal. you need to make some changes. Like I said, it's not like you've suddenly turned the corner and everything's great once the success happens. So many people succeed at something that they spent years going after, years making themselves miserable going after. And when they finally do succeed at it, it feels empty. Maybe they have, you know, a few hours of relief, a few hours of celebration, and then the next day they're completely empty. What do I do now? I guess I'll set another goal and make myself miserable for another few years until I succeeded at it. And then, yeah, maybe over 10 years or a lifetime, you have a lot of successes, but you haven't been fulfilled or happy the entire time. That's not worth it. All right. Same time every day. No, it will not be the same time every day. It'll be the same time some days. Um, but yeah, you need to, if you're subscribed, you will get notifications when I'm going live. In fact, the next one for tomorrow should have already gone out. Check your notifications. It should be there. See, the issue I have is that I struggle with tremors, which shakiness in my voice, my body during interviews, allowing my fear to ultimately win the battle. How do I keep the fear from showing? Well, if you're trying to hide fear, it's going to come out. So, I w- so there's a few things that you could try. I would use the swish pattern, which I will be covering in one of these lives, but I've also covered in my other videos. I'd use the swish pattern because I think that that's probably one that's really can help you here because it can interrupt um, that feeling of fear, interrupt that pattern of fear, and have you focus on your ideal self. You could also try the fast phobia process. That's another good one that would probably work. And then also just thinking ahead of time of the interview and see yourself doing what it is you want to do and negotiate with your unconscious and tell it, say, hey, it's good to know what things I may be doing wrong so that I can correct them. But it's not good during the performance. It's not good during the interview itself. So we can think about these things before and we can think about these things after, but get agreement with your unconscious that it's not going to show you any of these things, these negative things while you're in the performance, while you're doing the interview. And that's a whole process of, getting congruence with all of you, all parts of you, and getting agreement. So I know it sounds a little strange if you haven't done any NLP work, but it works really well. Love action feedback, great way of looking at experiences. Thank you. See, I really want to do tested in the self-concept and counter examples in different modality, but in the same location. Steve Andreas didn't find anyone like this, but I experienced this. Okay. Thank you so much. You're welcome. All right. That's it for me. Super excited. All of you showed up, and I look forward to 29 more days of doing this. All right. Take care, everybody.